Good evening, friend. We're beginning to run out of tales about me, but still, you seek them out. I cannot help but be touched. What tale do you think they have for you tonight?
Moriden Athluan.
Skyrim was not the only land to benefit from the mighty hands of the Dragonborn. Even the distant island of Solstheim, part of the ancient home of the Dunmeri people, was to feel the effects of his passing.
On the roads of Skyrim, Moriden had long been chased and hunted by a cult. This cult served a master whose name had long been lost to legend, the name of Miraak, the First Dragonborn.
Ah, this one. I should have realized.
Seeking only to stop the pursuit of his life, Moriden would travel to Solstheim to seek out this Miraak and silence him forever.
They have that part right, at least.
What he sought was not what he found. Instead, he found an island under siege, a people who moved as in a dream, and a Daedric lord who pulled the strings as a puppet.
Come now, and hear the tale of Moriden Athluan's time among the Skal, and of the fall of Miraak.
One of the shorter tales about me, but an important one. I learned things on that journey. Things that nobody should ever learn about themselves. Most of what they will tell you, well, better than most of their tales. The truth, though, the truth is not what the bards would have you believe. First Seed, 4th Era, 202. The Waterstone was my next destination. After depopulating a Reichling village and looking for the chest where a second piece of the Deathbrand armor was to be found, I made my way up the cliffs overlooking the seas. The process was the same as the other stones so far, the lurker, the exploding rocks, but there were also some changes. The first, one of Miraak's cultists, I have to imagine was deliberate. I am thinking that the dragon that showed up just afterwards was just a coincidence. At least, I hope so. If Miraak is actually able to command dragons to do his bidding, then I am very out of my league. Or might be anyway. I can still kill them, after all. I had seen, on my arrival, a general invitation to adventurers to find a ship called the Sea Tiger, just north of Raven Rock. I had been working my way south, down the coast from the North Shores, when I found where the ship was supposed to be, and instead found a Dunmer standing over a large number of dead bodies, some of them wearing the armor and markings of the town guard. The fact that this man was being obstinate and refused to tell me what was going on didn't help matters. Rather than kill him outright, however, I did a bit of looking around and found a note indicating that the one in guard armor might have been an undercover bandit, When I showed this to the strange Dunmer, Teldrin Sero, he immediately directed me to the town's captain of the guard. So I suppose he is a legitimate mer doing legitimate business. I'll have to look into that when I'm in town later. If this is some kind of con, I am going to find him. I stopped in Raven Rock to offload some of what I have found here. A few new armor varieties, some other trinkets, that kind of thing. Objects that the museum will be happy to have. In talking with the smith here, I ended up looking into something else, though. It started with a simple errand. Had it not been connected to Stalrim, which I'm trying to get more information about, I'd likely have told the smith to do his own work, but the errand was to get an ancient Nord pickaxe, supposedly one of the few that can even scratch Stalrim at all. That led me into the mines to fetch it from a man who had borrowed it. In the mines, I found the man who had taken it in an argument with a woman I think to be his wife. He has evidence, which he laid out for me, that his father had been killed by the East Empire Trading Company over some secret in these mines. It's mostly circumstantial, but to have some kind of hold on the trading company might be useful in the future. Never mind the fact that whatever they're trying to cover up or hide, if there is anything at all, might be very valuable in its own right. Since he is well into advanced age, I am basically his last hope. Everyone else thinks he's already lost his sanity somewhere. So I agreed, and began to descend into the mines. I made my way downwards, and can confirm that this mine, whatever it dug out, is played out. Not even a hint of anything valuable. In time I found the locked gate I'd been told to look for and made my way past it using the key he'd given me, the one his grandfather had hidden. So far, at least, the story checks out. Then I found what they might have been trying to hide. Raven Rock is built on top of an ancient Nordic ruin, which might cast some doubt over who, really, has the rights of ownership to the entire island. Not enough to kill someone about, I would think, but I have heard worse. I found the body of the old man, I think. Gratian. There is no cover-up, I think. I think it is more that the East Empire Company decided to be safe. Gratian was sent to look into the Nordic barrow, see what the miners had found. His journal indicates that he found the burial site for a Nord clan he had never heard of, the Bloodskull. It was in their honor that he named the blade that he found on a pedestal, and whose taking doomed him. He and his assistant had no chance against the Draugr they woke up. So no cover-up. They simply locked the whole area off as unsafe when their premier explorer never returned. Before he had died, though, he'd found a doorway that he was convinced could be opened using the Bloodskull blade. It took some time to make sense of his journal, but when I swung the blade, I saw the same ribbon of light his entries mentioned. So by swinging the blade, such that the ribbon of light aligned with the glowing red streaks on the outer part of the doorway, sections of that surrounding portion slid back into the wall and were replaced by a rotating mechanism of some kind. Then, when both sides were fully rotated, one more swing opened the entire passageway. The blade alone would have been worth my time. Now I wonder, what else is down here for me to take? I believe I now know why there was never any record of the Bloodskull. They appear to have been a part of the ancient dragon cult. Between the word wall here, which taught me the second word of a shout called Dragon Aspect, there was also a full dragon priest here. What was disturbing, however, was that it summoned up one of the Dremora I've seen the cultists of Miraak using, the same ones I also saw when I opened the Black Book at Miraak's temple. I have no proof yet, but I'm almost convinced that this is all connected with Hermaeus Mora somehow. This connection would be something ancient, it would appear, and that scares me more. Mora is not known to treat his champions well. See what happened to Septimus, if one doubts. So to see that some bargain struck with him might still be in force says to me that this is a deep connection that will not be easy to sever or twist to my own advantage. Then again, I am one of his champions too, for the moment. Perhaps that will make things easier than I think. If I needed more proof, the next room contained it. Another of the black books. And I was fearful to take hold of it, given what had happened the first time. I cleared the room and then prepared myself. If the last was any indication, then I was about to be yanked into another plane, likely part of Mora's realm of Apocrypha, if I was correct. I recall reading something in the Ogma when I first obtained it. Knowledge is the key to victory. Never attack what your enemy defends, never act as your enemy expects, and never reveal your true strength. If knowledge is power, then to be unknown is to be unconquerable. As the Lord of Knowledge, both Mora and his realm are unknown. I will have to be very careful indeed. There are times when one makes assumptions, guesses, and predictions, based on evidence, and one hopes that despite it all making sense, they are wrong somehow. In this instance, I had hoped I was wrong, and I was very much right. The book pulled me into Apocrypha. I know it was Apocrypha because I was greeted by the voice of Lord Hermaeus Mora himself, welcoming me to his personal slice of oblivion. Given that I now know these things to all be true, that means that Miraak has somehow either been allowed to remain on this plane, or he has gotten stuck in it. In the first, that would mean a deal with Lord Mora. In the second, it would mean he has been resisting Lord Mora and his forces for centuries. The first, though, is more likely, given the cultist summoning of Mora's Dremora. I was allowed to proceed into Lord Mora's realm with little interference. His Dremora were not thrilled with my appearance, and random tentacles popped out of any nearby source of, well, I can't say it's water, but whatever serves the same purpose here, to take random swings at me. Otherwise, though, it was easy to progress through this small portion of the plane. In time, I reached what I would say is a giant version of the same book that brought me here. Reading it was, well, it was mostly impossible. Imagine trying to read 3 texts, each overlaid on the other, so that one could not tell which symbol or character was from which text. By concentrating, you can make out one, but the other 2 remain out of focus. Shift to another, and you lose all memory of the first, but can now read the second. Such was the task, and by reading any given text, power would be granted to you. I chose to read what I will, for no real reason, call the third text, which I believe will allow me to have some advantage over those of the opposite gender. Perfect for sales, of course, not that I do much of my own vending these days, but still worth it for those rare moments. I then opened the original Black Book and returned to Solstheim. Just before I vanished back to Skyrim, I could have sworn I saw, in the far distance, a figure standing. I couldn't make anything out other than a silhouette, but I am certain that that figure was watching me. I had no time to think more on it, though I think there was something more to it. I'm just not sure. On return to Solstheim, I emerged from the barrow into a section that was frequented by bandits. Simplicity to work through and remove. Emerging into the night, though, I could tell that something had changed. Perhaps it was me. Perhaps Miraak is growing closer to his goals, or perhaps something to do with Lord Mora. I cannot say for certain, only that the sky was wrong. No sky I have seen has ever had this kind of color or patterning. The more I think I am learning, the more I am realizing that I know nothing at all. Though it was getting late, I tried to return to the old miner and give him the information and proof he'd wanted. Though he still thought that he could get something out of the East Empire Company for the supposed cover-up, I don't think he will have much luck with that. They likely just took their best guess with their Rockfall story. I very much doubt they went any further than where I found the locked gate. Still, it is done. Perhaps there will be more ebony to be found, as the old miner believes. That, however, is no longer of any concern to me. I took the room at the corner club once again and got some sleep. It's been a hard few days. 16 First Seed, 4th Era, 202. I caught up with Captain Veleth outside of Raven Rock. Turns out he was someone I had saved my second day on the island. He'd been out here investigating a ruined farmhouse, and I'd killed the ash spawn that had been chasing him. So we got off on a good foot, but as a result of that attack, he had clues leading to Fort Frostmoth being the source of the ash spawn. I more or less confirmed that. I'd been there following up on Sanamia's journals and had dealt with a large number of them there. The strange part is that the note, a declaration of war on Raven Rock no less, was signed by the commander of that fort at the time it had been destroyed, 200 years ago. If it's really the same general, then something is keeping him alive, and the captain wants that something removed. I may as well. More potential items of power here, I think. As for the Sea Tiger, he didn't mention a thing about Sero at all. The Sea Tiger is something that the captain has been wanting to look into but hasn't had time. He suggested checking one of the abandoned homes on the edge of town. I approached the fort cautiously. Though I had more or less cleared the place out a few days ago, that still meant that the general, or whoever is calling up all of the spawn, could have created more. It is still clear, though, and I heard nothing that was out of the ordinary. I returned to the same door I had used and re-entered the fort, finding the rooms I'd already been through equally empty of any issues. From there, I pressed on. And that was where things got more interesting. I found myself in the crypt of the fort and located a journal there. Though there is no name signed to it, I now know what has likely happened with the general. Necromancy, though of a type I have not seen. The writings refer to heartstones, their experiments to raise the general using one, and their failure to be able to command the general once he rose. I think that the necromancer did raise the general and lost control. His corpse might be one I've seen already, for all I know. Which means it is time to find the reanimated general and put him back to sleep. He wasn't too hard to locate. In a room that was locked, I found him surrounded by several ash spawn. The fight was a tight one, the confines of the room being very cramped. With the ash spawn throwing fireballs, I was very grateful that my shield, like Spellbreaker before it, was able to reflect and repel such magics. All the flames, however, did make it impossible to shoot arrows with anything approaching accuracy. Not that it mattered. How does one shoot with one hand? In time, I cut them all down. I feel almost bad about the general. He was operating to his own purpose, one that, it seems, none will ever know. I returned to the captain and made my report. The general was dead, again, and the Ashspawn were unlikely to be a further threat to Raven Rock. I also passed on my own guesses about the necromancer involved. Though likely dead, the journal did indicate that whoever they were, there was some kind of revenge trip going on with them. He took the information gladly, but he quickly moved on. The second counselor has been looking for me, it seems, and the captain was under orders to send me to him as quickly as was possible. Since I would rather not get into a power play with the locals, I still have my own business to go about here as well, I went to look for the counselor immediately. Instead, it appears I am to be a pawn in Morrowind's political arena. Raven Rock, and really all of Solstheim, is effectively under the rule of House Redoran, the saviors of the Dunmer people during and after the Oblivion Crisis. The current ruler here, Morvain, ordered an execution of a mer who is associated with House Hlalu, who many feel were traitors to the Dunmer people by welcoming the Empire into Morrowind centuries ago. That execution, the Councillor fears, has put Morvain at risk of a counterattack. I've been asked to search the town, ask questions, generally do what I've been doing since I got here. If anything comes up regarding any Hlalu agents, I should investigate and then pass information on to the Councillor. While I really have no stake in this, not like I have any house associations, having been born in Skyrim, as best I know, there's no reason not to try to help out. I have already, it seemed, helped get the local ebony mine back up and running, so things are already better and my name is associated with it. I don't think they need anything like the Skyrim Thanes here, but any power I might be able to grasp could be worth it. I took a look at the abandoned home that the captain had pointed me towards, and it was, in fact, inhabited. Ramondo, the one who had signed the first note I found, was there. But it seems I'm not understanding a great deal of what's going on. As best I can put together, since he won't be straight with me, the Sea Tiger is a ship of bounty hunters and treasure hunters. They'd abandoned their treasure hunting to look for a criminal that is supposedly worth over 20,000 septums. An emperor's ransom, if true. He can't be seen, for reasons he never made clear, but now that I know what to look for, and since I'm searching the town for other information anyhow, I can move about in ways he can't to get more information. I think I might be being played. As I emerged, there was a bandit attack. Not so difficult to deal with, since the guard was up and about in force this afternoon, but when I was looking through the bodies there was another note, the same person as wrote the note I had just seen. Sigrund had hired these to be a distraction, while another snuck into the jails. The captain needs to know I am not going to the jails on my own. A quick word with the captain, and I had the key and his permission to search the Bulwark jail. What I found, and what I can't believe none of the guards have ever noticed, was a way out of the only cell, one that dropped into a passage below the jail itself, and then into a ruin. A Nordic ruin. This is beyond strange. But somewhere in front of me is an infiltrator. I've basically discarded all I've learned about this situation as it no longer makes any sense. I hope I'll get some clear answers eventually, but so far I feel like I'm running about in the dark. I find myself even more confused than before. I found the infiltrator, who, from his armor, may have once been associated with the Thieves' Guild of Riften. The issue is that they don't do killings, and that is clearly what this Argonian was here to do. He referred to it as a suicide mission, and that he'd be facing odds of more than 20 to 1. Then he handed me a key, told me good luck, and left. I think he believes I just volunteered to take over what he called the Redoran contract. Perhaps this is linked to the situation the second counselor warned me of, and I'm just getting it from 2 different directions at once. Using the key the infiltrator gave me, I entered the location where the criminal, who was still nameless, was supposed to be hiding. In time, I found the place, though I had passed a large number of corpses to get there. The structure reminded me of nothing more than one of the barrow cities in Skyrim, including a central room. Entering it, I found it empty, but I did find a bounty poster. One for 25,000 septims. The name on it was Teldrin Sero, the same Dunmer I had talked to when I started this whole mess. Why would a criminal send me to find the captain of the guard? This made no sense. Then I turned around and there was a jail guard who had followed me. He refused to believe I wasn't with the mercenaries here to kill Sero, and hit me with some kind of spell that sent me spiraling into unconsciousness. 17 First Seed, 4th Era, 202. I woke up in a camp overlooking Raven Rock. Once I was clear enough to think, I also found a nearby note. This one wasn't signed, but the hand was different from all the others I have found to this point. I'm pretty sure it's Sero's. The note simply recommended that I get out of Raven Rock as soon as possible, and that the writer knew I wasn't one of them. I took the time to think through what I knew. Sero supposedly is a criminal with a bounty by order of Jarl Stormcloak, which immediately makes me suspect that not is all what it seems. The Jarl is dead, so it's even odds as to if the bounty could even be paid anyhow. Even more to the point, though, is that Sero pointed me to the local authorities. Given that Stormcloak was not a fan of the Dunmer, it could be that Sero is completely legitimate in what he's doing, and these mercenaries are just chasing gold, as the jailer implied I was doing. Indeed, that guard implying that says that Sero might be a part of the local government. That really is what made my choice for me. The mercenaries had never once been clear about what was happening, but their target steering me towards the duly appointed local government says he's likely one of the good guys, if such exists. Which means talking to Morvain and trying to get straight answers, I think. I was allowed to speak with Councillor Morvain briefly. I explained what I knew of the situation with Teldrin Sero, and Morvain was somewhat surprised, to say the least. Teldrin has been in Raven Rock for some months now, as best I can tell, and has been very helpful to the town. He'd come to the attention of the councillor through the recommendation of the innkeeper, of all people, and recommended I talk to him next. Since I had to anyhow to look into the second councillor's request, I agreed. The discussion with the innkeeper was surprising. First, I spoke about the Ulen situation with him, and he gave me the same information that he had passed on to the second counselor. There is an Ulen family crypt here, and someone has been leaving offerings. He suggested that if I really wanted some insight, that I wait there and see who came to leave an offering. That, however, was straightforward. When I pressed him about Sero, I found out a number of things. First, that the mercenaries after him are actually pirates that are working out of Windhelm. I'm not clear on this, but Sero might have been part of that crew for a short time, but even that seems off somehow. I do know, though, why the pirates fear the innkeeper. He is a former Miraak Tong, a retired assassin. One who is convinced that everything against Sero, and that Sero is innocent of the crimes he has supposedly committed. I'm not sure why I trust him, but if we can find the Sea Tiger and Sigrund, we might have what we need to prove it. The problem is that the wreck is most likely back in Skyrim, and I have no call to return there just yet. Sero seems capable of handling himself, so I'll just have to trust that he will continue to be. I made for the Ulen Holes, and I didn't wait long before someone arrived to make an offering. When I confronted her about this, she claimed that since there were no Ulens left on the island, she had felt the need to make the traditional offerings on their behalf. In other words, she simply was following a deeply entrenched tradition. I'm not sure how much I believe it. But since I can hardly make any accusations about her ancestry, the right thing here is to let the second counselor know. He would know what family line Talizu Severin is a part of, so best he make the call here. The Severin family is wealthy, well-respected, and paragons of what it means to be a citizen of Raven Rock. If Talizu has betrayed the colony, then the second counselor wants solid proof of it, which means he won't be kicking down any doors until I can show it for sure and certain. He did, however, provide me a key to their manor and permission to seek answers. And if I find them and such places me in danger, I am also authorized to do what I must to survive. With this permission in hand, I set out for Seravan Manor, where we all hoped I would find out I was incorrect. The fact that when they had tried to do the same thing I had at the Ulen tomb, nothing had happened, makes me think I am not wrong. This is going to be a blow to Raven Rock, I'm afraid, and these people are barely hanging on as it is. I tried being upfront, upright, and honest about my search of the Seravan Manor. I entered during broad daylight, no weapons drawn, but apparently Talizu couldn't handle such forthrightness. She, along with her daughter, attacked me immediately. I had no choice, and ended up putting arrows into both of them. Hoping I would find something to prove the accusation, I searched both bodies. On Talizu, I found a key to a safe, but otherwise there was nothing of interest. The safe had what I needed, though there are still many questions. She, along with her daughter, were House Hlalu plants, here to continue the vendetta that had begun with Morvese's execution of their ancestor. They married into the Seravan family, I think, and said that the daughter was her husband's to try to muddy the waters. Possibly. I'm hoping that this is enough to convince the second counselor, since I've got nothing else to prove that I am not a murderer. Well, at least, not this time. The proof was enough. And no sooner had I turned it over than one of the Reddering Guard entered the room and reported the deaths of both Talizu and her daughter, and that her husband had been seen running from the city. Though the second counselor and I exchanged glances, we said nothing. Orders were given for two of the Reddering Guard, along with myself, to follow Lord Seravan, last seen heading towards Ashfallow Citadel. Fortunately, not too far from the Sunstone, and a certain Telvanni wizard I've been told I should visit. This trip will serve me in many ways, it seems. After 3 hours of hiking through the Ashlands, I arrived at the designated meet-up point and found both of the guards dead. I didn't find them until after I'd killed 2 of the Miraak Tong, however. While my first thoughts went to the innkeeper, I think it is more likely that this is part of the Ulen and House Hlalu strike against the counselor, which in turn means I have to do this job on my own now. They wouldn't have revealed that the Tong was involved unless they were ready to strike. Or because they'd already been hired, so why not use them for defense as well? Either way, they have struck at me personally now. Time to end this. Entering the Citadel, I have come to 2 conclusions based on my observations. First, the Miraak Tong are supposed to be these ghosts, assassins from whom none is safe. Yet I sneak up on them, almost am in their faces, and they see nothing. I could do their job easily, I think, especially if this is the best they can train themselves to. It's pathetic, really. I've read in books that the Dark Brotherhood and the Miraak Tong have long been at odds, and that the Brotherhood has always looked down on the Tong as amateurs. I'm no Brotherhood member, of course, but if this truly is their best, I can't say as I would disagree with them. Second, from the huge number of traps, I'm guessing that the locals of the tower do not want visitors. Too bad for them. Also, could they have made the triggers more obvious? Vengeance. I believe I am qualified to speak on the subject. I know how strong its pull can be, how it can drive you to actions and decisions that you might not otherwise make. For me, it was a personal thing because it was to avenge personal wrongs. For you, though, Vendel Seraven, it was the pain that was inflicted upon you. You use the name Seraven, but that was not the name you were born to. Vendel Ulen, of House Hlalu. I know the pain that drove you to revenge. Your son, taken from you when he was executed, this is the source of your pain. Perhaps had you been smarter about things, it might have worked out. Perhaps if your so-called wife had not insisted on following traditions for a family to which she should not have belonged, none would have ever suspected. Your cover story was otherwise perfect. A rich family who did everything they could for Raven Rock, the city you helped to found. Such a pity for you that one little thing, one little slip-up, was enough to spoil your vengeance. I can relate, but I can also tell you that it would not have brought you the closure you wish it had. Vendel Ulen, Vendel Seraven of House Hlalu, is dead. The cleansing of the final stone went much as the others, though with no gods or dragons to deal with this time. I'm not sure if it has accomplished anything other than fulfilling the will of the skull, but even the possibility that it might make things harder for Miraak I must attempt. Once the final stone was cleansed, I set my sights on the Telvanni wizard, hoping that he might have a better idea of how to deal with Miraak and his plans, whatever they are. Before I made it to the wizard, I picked up the final piece of the Deathbrand armor, or I should say, Deathbrand's armor. He was, according to a book I have found, a pirate, known for his ferocity. Even his own crew, the Terrors of the Sea, refused to face him down, though they outnumbered him significantly. According to the book, the armor is only part of his legacy, for his weapons were to be buried with him. And wouldn't you know it, I just got a key out of this chest, along with a location for where he's likely to be buried. Perfect fodder for the museum. The wizard, Neloth, knows things. Just as he could see it in my eyes, I can see in his that he has been to Apocrypha. He wasn't aware that Miraak was involved in the local events around the island, or rather, he wasn't assuming it was the same Miraak from the legends. Asking about the black books, however, I saw his eyes narrow. He has one, he admits, but it is not connected to Miraak, he claims. The books, or likely just one of them, must be the source of Miraak's power, he believes. And he further believes he knows which book it is. The Dwemer have a city nearby that contains one of the books, though he's never been able to get to it. We will go to retrieve it together, though I'd have rather just left him behind and dealt with it myself. On the off chance, however, that I actually need his assistance, I will play along for now.